Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Imagination Online Experience. Today, I'm going to introduce you to a French artist called Henri Matisse. Matisse was born in 1869 in a small town in North France. He finished his school and moved to Paris to study law and become a court administrator. He got sick, and while he was recovering, he received a box of paints and started painting. He loved it so much that he decided that instead of being a lawyer, he would like to become an artist. And so he did. He applied to the most famous School of Arts in France, École des Beaux-Arts. He didn't succeed. So he took his pictures, his drawings, and he stood in front of the school every morning for a couple of weeks, bumping accidentally into the lecturers that worked there and showed them his pictures. Eventually, one of the lecturers invited him to participate in his classes, sit at the back and listen. The following year he applied again and he failed again. The third time he finally succeeded. He persevered to achieve his biggest dream, to become an artist. Henri Matisse is associated with an art movement called Fauvism. The faux in French means wild beast. And he was famous for radical experiments in color. His early works show quite simple landscapes, portraits, simple topics, but the colors were absolutely wild. Maybe because the way Matisse's creative life started, he once said, "Creativity takes courage." And he was a courageous beast. Henri Matisse was inspired by the world around him, by travels and objects he bought from all around the world. From the life of south of France through the intricate patterns of the Islamic world, from African sculptures and masks to Chinese porcelain and calligraphy. He collected over 200 objects that he used in his art as an inspiration. He called these objects actors because they played roles in each picture. Henri Matisse was inspired by Chinese art. The real moment of inspiration came in 1912 when he visited the British Museum in London. He saw the Chinese masters there and he said, those Chinese artists 1,000 years ago had already seen our problems and resolved them more or less in the same way as we did today. He also owned over 20 pieces of African art, including figurines and tribal masks. Look at them. This Uyambe mask from Congo, and another one here may have influenced the way he painted people. Have a look at the portrait of Marguerite, painted in 1906. Marguerite was his daughter, and she was 13 years old at that moment. He created a portrait with simplicity of a child's painting. Flat features, minimal details, and the girl's face looks like a mask. When Picasso and Matisse exchange pictures, this is the one that Picasso chose, and he hung it in his studio, displayed next to a pony mask. The biggest inspiration which can be visible in Matisse's colorful paintings filled with patterns is the Islamic art. He made an extended trip to Spain, and he spent a lot of time in Granada, in Andalusia, which is known for the Islamic influences. He visited the Alhambra in Granada, and I was lucky to visit it as well, just at the end of last year. Let's have a look at some pictures from Granada's incredible Alhambra Palace. It was there when Matisse began to realize the power of patterned surfaces to create the sense of space, especially when patterns are next to each other. One of the objects that he acquired in Spain was the green glass vase that appears in at least 2 of his paintings. Look at the vase of flowers, painted in 1924. And also a picture with roses. I love how the background is made of different patterns set next to each other, and they all painted quite flat. Which one do you prefer? I also like bringing objects from my travels, and when I went to Granada, I was amazed by little shops filled with those colorful lamps. And I decided to bring one home so I can remember the colors, the patterns of the Islamic influenced Spanish town of Granada. Henri Matisse also traveled to Morocco twice, in 1912 and 1913. He bought there some textiles that he used for setting up his studio, hanging them from the ceiling, as well as carpets to provide the oriental feel for his models, so he could take the viewer of his paintings on a journey to the Islamic world of fantasy. Another Moorish object he bought was a Haiti, which is a large textile with sections of open decorative work to hang in front of the window. Matisse used it in his painting Moorish Screen, painted in 1921. Another incredible picture with an oriental setting. But surprisingly, we see two elegant French ladies wearing traditional smart dresses. And there is also a European table. Another picture, purple robe and anemones, painted in 1937. Has a pewter jug with a twisted stripe motif. This jug appears quite often in his paintings. All the rest are patterns. Matisse said, "For me, the subject of the picture and its background must have the same value." So he thought that the background of the picture is equally important as the person who he's painting. Once a journalist visited Matisse in his studio, and he described the space as being very eclectic. He had tapestries from Congo, head carved from stone, masks from Africa, Moroccan screens, marble table and a bird cage. Everything in his studio inspired him in his art. I hope those colorful and wild paintings by Henri Matisse really inspired you. What we are going to do today is making patterns, as Henri Matisse specialized in patterns. That's what I would like to encourage you to do with me. I'm going to show you some symmetrical patterns as well as tasseling patterns. And then I wondered if we could do a picture of your favorite object that you brought from your travels, or maybe something else that is important to you, and then surround that object with lots of patterns, just like Matisse did. So we are going to use oil pastels and watercolors. I hope you're ready. Please set up your space and let's get started. I would like to share with you some of the wonderful pictures painted by Henri Matisse. Look at the colors and patterns in this picture here. He also didn't necessarily use complementary colors, because blue and red are not complementary, but they work really well together. One of my favorites is this still life with oranges, painted in 1913. And it shows exactly what we want to achieve in today's activity. So, different patterns on the background and an object somewhere in the middle. This image, called Odalisque in red trousers, is a series of paintings inspired by the Islamic art. Can you see how Matisse hang different wall coverings to make this room look exotic? And this wonderful lady, I love her blue dress. She's called Lady in Blue. It's painted much later, in 1937. I think Matisse liked using blue and red together. What do you think about her dress? Look at those two paintings of a lady in a similar pose. Here she's wearing a purple coat, and there is a vase of flowers. In this one we have flowers too. They are in a different vase, but on both pictures you can see the same table. It's a beautiful Moroccan table from Matisse's collection of interesting objects. But the best part are the patterns in the background. Here we have some yellow wallpaper in stripes, and purple, some other stripes here, and her coat has some wonderful buttons as well. This one is very different. Flowery patterns on the black background and black swirls on the back. So I hope you are inspired now to create your own patterns. I would like to show you 4 different patterns to make. The first one is the simplest. It's a symmetrical pattern. So you will have a line of symmetry going through the middle, and there's the same thing going on both sides. This is a great example of a symmetrical pattern. Can you see how this side is the same as this side? So let's draw a simple symmetrical pattern. So a great symmetrical pattern is a heart. It's the same on both sides. You can also do a symmetrical pattern with the line of symmetry going across. And then your 2 objects will be on 2 sides of your line. Let's do something simple like triangle and another triangle. Great! That's another repeated symmetrical pattern. What if we have 2 lines of symmetry going this way and that? And you have 4 objects which are the same. There we go. And the most exciting one is a tasseling pattern. Tasseling is when your subjects go, your shapes go in a zigzag way. For example, like here. Can you see how the circles go in a zigzag way. Right, let's do a tasseling pattern here. And going to use some glue. We can do a swirl that goes in a tasseling. There you go, it's a tasseling pattern. So you know how to make 4 different repeated patterns. Let's put this in practice now. And let's design a lovely patterned page. Okay, everyone. I'm going to make a tasseling pattern because I think it's so exciting. If you wish, you can start with a gentle pencil sketch, then go into oil pastels, and then to finish the background, I'm gonna use watercolors. Right. So my pattern will be a little bit like this one, floral one. It will have some circles. I'm just gently drawing 3 circles. Remember to draw very gently with your pencil. I'm drawing a bit harder so you can see. To set up your scene, be like Matisse and bring in some exotic materials and fabrics. I've got this lovely cloth with beautiful flowers embroidered on them, and I really enjoy the texture and the pattern on this material. It reminds me of Portuguese times. So this is actually bedding, so you can use anything you have at home that has interesting pattern. So I hung these on my desk so I can see them really well, and the main subject of my drawing will be this guy. Do you know him? Hello! I'm Lotso. Yes, and I'm going to draw you Lotso, okay? Okay. So sit quietly here on this lovely patterned background, and I'm going to draw Lotso in style of Matisse. What do you think, guys? You can use an object that you brought from your travels, like a jug or a cup or something interesting. Could be also a lamp, like this one I showed you before. Lamp from Andalusia. Beautiful Islamic style lamp. But today I wanted to do something different. So I'm gonna set up Lotso in the middle of my page. Can you see how my sketch was very light and then I'm making it darker? That's the subject of my drawing. Now it's time for the patterns, which are as important as the subject. So that will be space for my flowery pattern. And now it's time to do the background pattern. There are some folds. Okay, the sketch is finished. Now I can start painting. I'm gonna paint the background first because Lotso's going to be purpley pink. My background will be mostly yellow. All I need to do now is sign my art piece. This is Lotso, inspired by Matisse. Goodbye everyone! I like this Lotso very much. Well done everyone! I hope you enjoyed making colorful patterns and drawing objects from your travels. Henri Matisse was actually really famous because of something that he invented later in his life. And these are the cutouts. I made an example here of a paper cutout inspired by one of Matisse's famous blue figures. So when Matisse was 72, he suffered from cancer and had to have an operation, very serious operation, and he wasn't in great health afterwards. He had to stay in bed for a long time and also could only move on a wheelchair. So it was very difficult for him to paint and to make sculptures. So he decided to take his art to a new level and started painting with scissors. Yes, he started making giant collages, and he used a huge pair of scissors, and he would cut out colorful pieces of paper, creating amazing images. He would have assistants in his studio that would work as his hands, and they would place the pieces of cutouts where he asked them to. And he would say, no, the blue one a bit lower. Oh, move the red one a bit higher. And that's how he arranged his new art. He used a cutout shapes and constructed this very innovative way of expressing himself. Maybe you had a chance to visit Tate Modern Gallery in London and see the snail. It's a gigantic piece of art which he created only 1 year before he died, in 1953. It's made of very colorful, almost square shapes. The color is really striking. It's joyful, simple, and childlike. Here are some other examples of his paper cutouts. if you're interested to create some art with scissors, you can do that. If you have some colored paper, or you can prepare your paper beforehand and paint it in different colors. Wait for it to dry and then cut out shapes that come to your mind. Arrange them on a blank piece of paper. Move them around. Think about the composition. And when you're 100% sure that you like the composition, that's when you can use some glue and stick it all together. Thank you so much for joining me today in my lesson number 8 about Henri Matisse. I'll see you next week.